All right. Welcome to Fuck It, I'm Done, the health and fitness podcast for grown-ass women. I am your host, Nicole Parmley. I am a women's health and fitness coach. And this month I am recording a podcast on sarcopenia. So back in July, actually, it was Sarcopenia Awareness Month. And of course, I had to write an article. I couldn't pass up that opportunity. So the blog has been up since July, but I'm just now getting around to recording it. Just got busy with family and other aspects of life, but I'm glad to be here doing this now. For those of you who may not be familiar with the term sarcopenia, what we're talking about is age-related muscle loss. And it is something that affects every human. There's really no complete way around it. It does affect women disproportionately. We lose more muscle mass and faster than our male counterparts. And the amazing thing about sarcopenia is that while doctors throw their hands up about it and they spend their time diagnosing it instead of preventing it, it actually is really preventable to a large degree. We may not be able to retain the same muscle mass and the same muscle quality that we had in our 20s, but there's also no reason that we need to end up in a nursing home or in a wheelchair because of sarcopenia. There are a lot of things we can do to mitigate and reduce that. As a almost 41-year-old, I have much more muscle than I did as a 20-year-old. So all is not lost, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can prevent sarcopenia. Now, if you listened to last month's podcast, it was about protein, and I just want to go back and visit that because eating a high protein diet is a huge part of preventing sarcopenia. So please go back and listen to that. But I do want to add something. I have this thing about eggs, and I don't think I addressed the egg issue in the protein podcast. What I need to say about eggs is an egg is not a great source of protein. An egg is a great source of fat. And it's not bad. I'm not saying don't eat eggs, but please don't think you can eat an egg and consider it high protein. It's about 9 grams of protein. I think that's in an extra large egg, but then it's got 6 grams of fat. So when you are eating eggs and you are considering eggs as a protein source, please keep in mind you are eating anywhere between 3 and 4 eggs as a serving of protein. Egg whites are a little bit easier to work with if you are concerned about fat calories for any reason. Say you have high cholesterol or you are trying to lose body fat for health reasons. You can work with egg whites and those are high protein, but please just be aware it's a lot. Like look at the serving size, look at the protein, whether you're using whole eggs or you're using egg whites, please make sure you're getting about 25 grams of protein in that serving. So sorry, an egg doesn't count. The other thing I wanted to mention were nuts. Nuts are not a great source of protein, period. Do they have protein? Yeah, they do. And they have great healthy fats. Please eat nuts. They're so good for you, as long as you're not allergic, obviously. But please don't think that if you throw a handful of almonds on a salad, you've met your protein quota for that meal. You have not. You need to also throw some steak or some chicken or some fish on there and enjoy the nuts as a tasty little garnishment. So do that and you can help prevent sarcopenia. But moving on to this month's podcast and this month's blog, let's talk a little bit more about sarcopenia and what we can do from an exercise standpoint to prevent it. I, as you can imagine, did quite a bit of homework before I wrote the blog article, before I came to this podcast. And there are multiple definitions of sarcopenia out there as far as what practitioners use to diagnose it. And I've decided on 3 tests in particular that I want to address. So the first one is gait speed. This is how fast someone walks. I'm sure you have seen in the grocery store or just about any place where you go with the public, those little old ladies shuffling around, bent over, hardly get their feet up off the floor. Like this is what it's talking about. This inability to walk quickly. And that is one of the major tests used by international organizations to diagnose sarcopenia. And so the question is, well, what do we do about that? How do we maintain walking, our walking speed? And the answer is really quite simple here, is we walk. If you want to continue to be able to do a certain movement, you have to continue doing the movement. If you stop, then your ability to perform that movement, in this case walking, is going to decrease. Walking is really interesting because we a lot of times put that on the back burner. It's not sexy. And I'll be honest, I have fallen into the trap of laughing at or rolling my eyes at people who are like, got my 10,000 steps a day. There is actually something to that. And what is interesting is that when we are talking about walking as an exercise for women, it is going to look different than walking as exercise for men. Especially when we're getting into the perimenopausal and menopausal or postmenopausal phases of our lives. So let's talk a little bit about what that should look like. This is especially important if you have already been diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis. So when we exercise or when we walk for exercise, what we should be doing are short stints of walking very intentionally. So an hour-long walk with the dog does not count. It really doesn't help us to maintain the gait speed. We need to be going for 10 to 15-minute walks where walking is the intention. So that does a few things for us, right? That puts the needed stress on the muscles and on the skeleton to help preserve muscle mass, to help preserve bone mass. It also helps us to retain our ability to move powerfully over the ground, right? So we're not just shuffling along, we are actually pushing off of the sidewalk or the road or the trail, wherever it is you decide to walk. So going out throughout the day for 10 to 15 minute bursts, we'll call them, of walking, is much more beneficial for the body than an hour-long walk. Now, when we get into mental health, that's a different story. That's not what we're addressing here. We're addressing maintaining gait speed. Another thing that we need to be aware of is that walking is one of the fundamental movement patterns. It is a form of the lunge. If you think about how you walk and then you compare that to a lunge, it's the same. So practicing lunging will also help to retain your gait speed as you get older. This is why, as a personal trainer, I do incorporate walking into programs. I love to see people getting up to 10,000 steps most days. For most clients, this is gradual. If you go from not walking at all to all of a sudden trying to walk 10,000 steps in a day, you're going to get very disheartened because it's a lot more time than you think it is. But it is an important part of staying strong and of fighting against sarcopenia. The next thing that a lot of the international organizations, health organizations, use to diagnose sarcopenia is lean muscle mass. Now, this was an interesting one because I watched a lot of seminars in preparation for this, and there was one, y'all, I wanted to push him down because it was a college professor, and he was pontificating on how unimportant lean muscle mass is and that strength is more important. At the end of the day, you need both, sweetie. Like, sit down and let the big girls talk. So I want to address the importance of lean muscle mass and why we do need to be concerned about that. So sarcopenia in and of itself, by definition, has to do with muscle mass. Sarcopenia is age-related muscle loss. So by definition, we have to address muscle mass. When we are retaining muscle mass, I've talked about this before, what that translates to for you if you're working out at home is doing 8 to 12 reps of a movement. Your 12th rep should be so heavy, you're lucky you get it out. Okay, and I don't mean, it's just burning. I mean, you can't finish the movement because the weight is too heavy. That is how we induce what we call hypertrophy, which means muscle growth. So for you who are working out at home, please make sure that your weights are heavy enough that you are only able to get out 11 to 12 reps. Now, one of the other things that I want to talk about is the physiological importance of women for retaining muscle mass. Again, this college professor did a great job spewing numbers, but obviously he had not done any research into the physiological importance of muscle mass, especially for women. So I'm actually going to read to you an excerpt from a book that I love. It's called Next Level. It's by the incomparable Dr. Stacy Sims. And she talks about why, as perimenopausal and postmenopausal women, we really need to fight to retain our muscle mass. So here it is. I just can't say it any better. So if you do nothing, this is Dr. Stacy Sims, if you do nothing to stem that loss, meaning muscle loss, you can expect to lose up to 8% of your strength each decade after your 30th birthday. And that decline accelerates after age 60. So by the time you're 55, you might be 20% weaker. While strength and muscle mass are not the same thing, they are closely linked. Especially important to women is the fact that estrogen is the main driver of muscle mass and strength. She goes on to state that when researchers take biopsies of women shortly before and then shortly after their transition through menopause, they see the women's ability to regenerate muscle stem cells plummet by 30 to 60%. This affects us in the following ways. When we lose our muscle mass, it decreases our metabolic rate. So muscle takes a lot of energy to sustain. We burn a lot of calories trying to maintain muscle. The less muscle we have, the fewer calories we're burning to maintain it. The other thing it does is that when we lose muscle mass, it decreases our posture and it decreases our stability. So if you think about all of those women who are falling and fracturing their bones, that is due in large part to the fact that they have lost muscle mass and they cannot stabilize anymore. It causes our tendons to loosen. So we are more prone to injury. And then the other thing that it does is as we lose muscle mass, we can no longer maintain a healthy body composition. So when we talk about body composition, we are looking at muscle to fat ratio. It is interesting to note that when we stimulate the body with heavy lifting to increase our muscle mass, it increases insulin sensitivity. Right? So we are less prone to become pre-diabetic or diabetic, okay? And it stimulates growth hormones, muscle growth hormones. And there is budding scientific research that suggests that it also signals to fat cells to go ahead and break down and make that energy available to the body. So working for hypertrophy, working for that muscle mass allows us to continue to lose body fat at the same time. Another thing I wanted to address, just because it bothers me that it's out there because of this college professor, who shall go unnamed because I'm not trying to troll anybody, but he was very poo-poo on DEXA. He was saying it's a horrible tool for diagnosing sarcopenia. Maybe he's right. But ladies, let's not get confused about what we want to do. We do not want to diagnose sarcopenia. We want to prevent sarcopenia. And in the fight to prevent it, DEXA is an invaluable tool because it allows you and it allows me as a trainer to keep track of what is going on with your muscle mass. And if we see it start to decrease, we can make lifestyle changes necessary to prevent further decrease in muscle mass. Please use DEXA. We don't want to be diagnosed. We don't want to be using a diagnostic tool. We want to use a preventative tool. Another test that they use in diagnosing sarcopenia is grip strength. And this one is really interesting because I have heard for so long the importance of farmer's carry. If you're not familiar with that exercise, basically what it is that you have two weights, usually kettlebells or dumbbells, and you're carrying these weights at your side for, a certain distance, point A to point B, or for a particular time. Research has shown that women who can carry 75% of their body weight for 1 minute have a significant reduction in cardiovascular disease, dementia, disability, and overall early death. So this idea of grip strength is not new. We have seen it in the strength and conditioning circles for quite some time. This is why I strongly advocate for free weight work. Work with kettlebells, work with dumbbells, work with barbells. And I train my clients to be able to do pull-ups. So we're working with bars overhead as well and pulling ourselves up to it. This will increase your grip strength. Doing the stupid machines at your local big box gyms will not do this for you. It is cheating. And another thing that will not do this for you are basic movements, things like bicep curls, things like leg lifts. This will not accomplish what you are looking for. If what you are looking for is a long health span, we need to be doing real free weight training. And we need to be doing compound movements. If you've never seen my weightlifting videos, and they're of me, right? You can go to my YouTube channel, it's Save Yourself Coaching, and you can see me doing things like deadlifts, cleans, snatches. For those of you who aren't familiar with cleans and snatches, these are Olympic lifting movements. These are all compound, complex movements. And not only does this work grip strength, but it works grip strength under conditions of high force. So not only do you have that weight, you are also moving that quickly through space. Nothing is going to work your grip strength more than that. And in addition to that, it also is going to work your flexibility, your power, your ability to catch weight. So if you think about when you pull a bag of soil out of a car, if you like to garden, you have to receive that weight. You have to be able to withstand that pressure. All of these movements, these free weight, complex movements are going to build whole body strength so much better than the machines. So in the fight against sarcopenia, we need to be working on our gait speed by maintaining our ability to walk, our ability to lunge, our ability to balance. We need to be working on our lean muscle mass through hypertrophic, remember that just means adding muscle mass, exercise, 8 to 12 reps, heavy enough that 12th rep is almost impossible. And we need to be working on our grip strength through free weight training. So there's so much more I could talk about, so much more I could say, but the whole point of this podcast is that you get little bits of usable information that you can incorporate into your life in a quick time while you're on your lunch break or while you're doing dishes or whatever it is that you do, driving to work. If you are interested in more information, please contact me. You can go to saveyourselfcoaching.com. That's my website. That truly is the best way to get a hold of me. You can send me an email. There's a place that says book a consultation. Everybody gets a free half-hour consultation. And it's not a time where I'm going to try and sell things to you. This is not like a timeshare where you have to sit through a boring presentation. It is legitimately a 30-minute conversation that you get to have with me about whatever it is you have a question for. And at the end of it, if you want to continue working together, cool, we can talk about what that looks like. But if you feel complete and you have the answers you need, I'm glad to have helped. Another thing to mention is that I am working with Thorne. That is a supplement company. If you are interested in supplementation, if you're already taking supplements and are curious about whether your supplements are effective, again, please reach out. I can offer people a 15% discount through my storefront, and I love to do that. Supplementation, responsible supplementation is an important part of preserving the health span of women, especially if our diets are not on point. So if that is something that you're interested in, again, you can just contact me. You can send me an email at info@saveyourselfcoaching.com, and I can hook you up with a discount of top shelf supplements. They're the supplement company I use myself. So until next time, my friends, bye.